Hey guys, it's my birthday, so you know what that means. We are going to go to Barnes & Noble and we are going to go shopping. There's not really anything in particular. Okay, that's a lie. There are a couple of books that I definitely want to buy. I want to pick up a book by Zadie Smith called On Beauty, so I'm really hoping they have that there. I'm actually currently reading Howard's End by E.M. Forster, which I'm reading for another vlog. So you'll see my thoughts about that in that video if you're interested, which should definitely come out after this video. But I want to pick up On Beauty by Zadie Smith, which is a book kind of like a retelling of Howard's End. What else do I want to pick up there? I recently, earlier this year, read a book called The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich, which I absolutely freaking loved that book. Like, just such a wonderful read. It was kind of about the concept of if everyone in the world knew when they were going to die, and how that affects them and how that affects the way they live their lives. So that's been something that I've thought about so often since I've read it. I truly, really loved that book. So I'm interested in picking up her new book that came out in the beginning of June this past year called The Poppy Fields. But we'll see, because it is in hardcover, and I feel like I don't know if I'm willing to buy a brand new hardcover. But since it's my birthday, I might do it. I don't know. We'll see how I'm feeling when I'm there. But yeah, I'm excited. Let's go. Okay, so we are back. We are back from Barnes & Noble. We had a great time. I seriously think I picked up really awesome books to add to my collection, and I'm really excited about them, and I'm really excited to share them with you. I happened to get a lot of NYRB editions, and I did not end up getting any hardcovers. I saw The Poppy Fields by Nikki Ehrlich. Oh my gosh, guys, it was $32. It was $32 freaking dollars. I just can't justify that. You know what I mean? I just can't justify it. So I'm gonna wait and see if maybe I can get it on audio through my Libby app, which is free, or maybe wait till it comes out in paperback like another year or something. I'm hoping I can get it on audiobook because I listened to The Measure on audiobook and I loved it. But yeah, $32 is too much. Like maybe if I had a gift card, it'd be different. But like, honestly, maybe even not. I don't know. Yeah, I got a lot of NYRB editions. And a lot of these I'd never heard of before. I don't know. I'm pumped about it. So we'll start with this stack here. We have 3 books by the same author, who is an author that I've never read from before. I feel like I've never heard of him before either, but his name sounds vaguely familiar. Either way, I haven't heard enough for anything to stick about who he is or all that. But I got 3 books by the same dude in NYRB editions because apparently it's a trilogy, and I looked up online if I could read them out of order because 2 of them, I could not choose between 2 of them, which was the first book in the trilogy and the last book in the trilogy. And I looked up online if I could read them out of order, and ChatGPT said, no, you can't do that. So I'm like, okay, well, here we are. Apparently it has like some philosophical thematic connections, which just kind of got me. And also, of course, it's my birthday, so I figured why not? They're so pretty together. So that author's name is Antonio D. Benedetto. They seem to all be translated by someone named Esther Allen as well. The first book in the trilogy is called Zama. This, I'm gonna have to read you the back because they sound pretty, I don't know, different. But first published apparently in 1956, Zama is now universally recognized as one of the masterpieces of modern Argentinian and Spanish language literature. Written in a style that is both precise and sumptuous, Zama takes place in the last decade of the 18th century and describes the solitary, suspended existence of Don Diego de Zama, a highly placed servant of the Spanish crown who has been posted to Asuncion in remote Paraguay. Eaten up by pride, lust, petty grudges, and paranoid fantasies, Don Diego does as little as he possibly can while plotting an eventual transfer to Buenos Aires, where everything about his hopeless existence will, he is confident, be miraculously transformed and made good. Don Diego's slow, nightmarish slide into the abyss is not just a tale of one man's perdition, but an exploration of existential and very American loneliness. That sounds amazing to me. Something, especially what it says at the end, something that's an exploration of existential and very American loneliness. I started reading each of these inside Barnes & Noble, and this guy's writing style gels with me from what I can tell so far. So I'm really excited about these. And the second book in that trilogy is The Silenciary, and this takes place in a nameless Latin American city during the early 1950s. A young man employed in middle management entertains an ambition to write a book of some sort. But first he must establish the necessary precondition, which the crowded and noisily industrialized city always denies him, however often he and his mother and wife move in search of it. He thinks of embarking on his writing career with something simple, a detective novel, and ponders the possibility of choosing a victim among the people he knows and planning a crime as if he himself were the killer. That way he hopes his book might finally begin to take shape. So that one was the one that appealed to me the least, but it still definitely appealed to me, for sure. Like, I'm actually really excited I got all 3 of them, okay? And then this was the other one that really appealed to me initially, and it's called The Suicides. And this is supposed to be about a reporter in his early 30s, and he embarks on an investigation of 3 unconnected suicides. Other suicides begin to proliferate while a colleague in the archives sends him historical justifications of self-murder by thinkers of all sorts. Diogenes, David Hume, Emile Durkheim, and Margaret Mead. His investigation becomes an obsession, and he finds himself ever more attracted to its subject as it proceeds. This is just absolutely, totally up my alley. I mean, anything that has to do with depression and all the various things that can come of that, totally, I mean, it's like a buzzword for me. Like, absolutely. So, like, loneliness, this, you know, I'm here for it. I'm so excited about this trilogy. You have no freaking idea. And apparently it's called the Trilogy of Expectation, after the dedication to the victims of expectation. Oh, yeah. To the victims of expectation. That is deep, actually. That is deep, bro. Aren't we all victims of expectation? It's just reminding me of Middlemarch by George Eliot. Oh, okay. Anyway, moving on. Another book that I got. How cool. I was going to say stunning, that's why I said school. But how cool is this cover? Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. This is called Sun City by Tove Jansson, translated by Thomas Teal. This is the author of the really famous The Summer book. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it. I haven't read that yet. I totally would have picked that up if I saw it there. But I saw this one, and I've seen this online before too, and honestly, because the cover is so striking, and it's like pink, you know what I mean? I was like here for it. But this is supposed to be about a retirement home set in Florida, and apparently the author, when she traveled to America, was really, in the 70s, she was really fascinated by the concept of retirement homes and people that lived there. And so we kind of get the perspectives of a lot of people that live in this retirement home, and I think them thinking about like the end of their lives and they're waiting for something or something like that. I think this could potentially be a really wonderful, fascinating read, so I'm really excited about that one. And then two more NYRB editions that I picked up are both by, again, the same author, and I haven't actually read anything by this author yet, and I do have two other books of his on my shelves. So I really hope I like them. His books just sound so interesting, so I picked up, I didn't register the fact that there was beeping going on for a little bit, so I'm sorry if there was a lot of beeping a second ago. But anyway, Stefan Zweig, really excited. I really hope that I like his books because, like I said, I have a few of them. But I picked up Chess Story, which I think is the one most people probably are aware of his, and it's a short little novella. And then I picked up this one called Journey to the Past. Sounds super interesting. So Journey to the Past is a deep study of the uneasy heart by one of the masters of the psychological novel, a novella that was found among Zweig's papers after his death, investigating the strange ways in which love, in spite of everything, time, war, betrayal, can last. Zweig tells the story of Ludwig, an ambitious young man from a modest background who falls in love with the wife of his rich employer. His love is returned, and the couple vow to live together, but then Ludwig is dispatched on business to Mexico, and while he's there, the First World War breaks out. So that sounds interesting. I like the length. And then, of course, Chess Story. I'm not exactly sure what the plot of this is. I just know, I think it has to do with chess. And I think there's like they're on like a ship. Not quite sure. It's set in 1938. Or I think it might be like an allegory for some like World War II. I'm totally not exactly sure. If anybody knows, let me know. I'm excited to have this. I think I might start there just because it is so short with his books. So yeah. Okay, and then we have a few classics actually, so I guess we'll do those. First, I picked up this book called Excellent Women by Barbara Pym, which is supposed to be a rich and amusing high comedy set during the 1950s in England. Our main character's name is Mildred, who's a clergyman's daughter and a mild-mannered spinster, again in 1950s England. She is supposed to be the smart, supportive, repressed woman whom men take for granted. And I think she gets involved in different people's lives and gossip and what have you, and I think it's just supposed to be like a fun, pleasant, cozy, classic novel about this unmarried woman in the 1950s who, again, like I said, is taken for granted. And that just sounds super pleasant, like a super pleasant reading experience to me. I hope I really love this. I did just recently read The Enchanted April by Elizabeth Von Arnim, and I feel like this is kind of giving me that same mood, the vibe of that same mood, and that's I kind of really want that right now. So yes, I figured this was a good one to pick up. And then I picked up, this is a repurchase. Okay, people, this is a repurchase. Because like I said, when I moved, I got rid of so many things. Guys, I got rid of so many things, it's ridiculous. And I regret a few of the books that I got rid of. I've since repurchased one of them, and this is the second one that I've repurchased of books that I got rid of. And that is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. Now, I first read Tess of the D'Urbervilles when I was like 19. I liked it at the time. It was actually the first classic that I read that I liked, that I enjoyed. I really liked the writing style. I felt like I was really involved with the story and embedded in the world. And I haven't read it since then. And for some reason, I decided to get rid of it when I moved, because I'm like, gotta get rid of a bunch of stuff. And I don't know why I thought I wasn't ever gonna read it again. I think because I had read Far From the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy, which I also got rid of, and I low-key regret. But I read Far From the Madding Crowd last year, and I did not necessarily love Far From the Madding Crowd. I didn't hate it, but I didn't necessarily love it. So then in my head, I'm like, maybe I'm just not a Thomas Hardy person, even though I liked this. I do not know what I was thinking. Far From the Madding Crowd, let me just have a moment with that one. I loved Gabriel Oak in Far From the Madding Crowd. Like, what an amazing male character, must I say. Like, just what an amazing character for the whole story. Anyway, I had a huge issue, though, with Bathsheba Everdeen, who's the main female character. I just really didn't like the way she treated all the guys around her. I really didn't like it, and I really hated the fact that she married that dude who was like a soldier, and I'm like, how can you not see that he's a total jackass? But I think that's like the whole point of Thomas Hardy, is like, I think in all of his books he really shows that, like, to him, his philosophy is lust wins out, and then life will knock you down. But anyway, that's potentially a hot take, I'm not sure. But I repurchased Tess of the D'Urbervilles because I do really want to reread it. I also purchased this book by Anthony Trollope, and it's called Can You Forgive Her? This is the first, I also haven't read any Anthony Trollope, so can you sense a theme here? I'm a collector. Yeah, there we go. But I really hope I like at least some of his books. I've heard, based off of a lot of videos that I've watched online, that they, depending where you start, like they're all can be pretty different. But I have also heard you either like Charles Dickens or you like Anthony Trollope. And I'm not a Charles Dickens girl, so I'm really hoping I prefer this more psychological realism of Anthony Trollope. Not sure, but I'm hoping. This is the first book in the Palliser series. This book just also sounds really delightful. Alice Vavasor cannot decide whether to marry her ambitious but violent cousin George or the upright and gentlemanly John Grey, and finds herself accepting and rejecting each of them in turn, increasingly confused about her own feelings and unable to forgive herself for such vacillation. Her situation is contrasted with that of her friend Lady Glencora, forced to marry the rising politician Plantagenet Palliser in order to prevent the worthless Brugo Fitzgerald from wasting her vast fortune, and asking his readers to pardon Alice for her transgression of the Victorian moral code. Trollope created a telling and wide-ranging account of the social world of his day. That just sounds really interesting to me, so I hope I love that. I don't know if I'm going to start with that one, or I have The Warden. I've heard not to start with The Warden because it's not that, like, exciting of Anthony Trollope's books, but it is the shortest. So I don't know. We'll see. Then I also picked up Vile Bodies by Evelyn Waugh, because I did just recently read Brideshead Revisited by this author, and I ended up really, really enjoying it. I thought that book was so layered and deep and had so many interesting thematic elements, and it was really beautifully written. So I'm very excited to have picked up this book by him. We'll see when I get to it, but this is supposed to be set during the years following the First World War, in which a new generation emerged, wistful and vulnerable beneath the glitter, the bright young things of 1920s London, with their paradoxical mix of innocence and sophistication, exercised their inventive minds and vile bodies in every kind of capricious escapade. In these pages, a vivid assortment of characters, among them the struggling writer Adam Fenwick and the glamorous aristocratic Nina Blount, hunt fast and furiously for ever greater sensations and the hedonistic fulfillment of their desires. It's supposed to be a satire. Apparently it made a lot of people laugh when it came out. But that's Vile Bodies. And then, so I have 2 books left in this haul, which is super exciting. I did end up picking up On Beauty by Zadie Smith because, again, like I said, I'm currently reading Howard's End by E.M. Forster, and this is kind of a retelling of that. I have read White Teeth by Zadie Smith. It's on the floor right next to me. I read that maybe like 7 years ago now as well. I think she's a great writer. I don't necessarily know if I loved White Teeth, but I think she's a great writer. I specifically love Zadie Smith's like essays, her nonfiction writing. Love it. But I am really excited to read On Beauty. I know this is on the New York Times 100 Best Books of the Century list. And this also was a Women's Prize for Fiction winner many years ago. I don't know, when did this book come out, like 2010? I'm not sure. Whatever year this came out, it won the Women's Prize. So I've had this on my radar for a long time, and now that I'm reading Howard's End, I think it's the right time to pick it up. So excited about this. And then, last but not least in this haul, I have been aware of this book for a really long time, and I guess the universe felt like this was the right day to pick it up. And that is All My Puny Sorrows. It was by Miriam Towes. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about this one. I hope I love it. I think this cover is absolutely beautiful. I love the white with like the orange and the blue. But this is supposed to be about 2 sisters who live very different lives. One of them is like a famous actress, I think, or a performer. And the other one is like a stay-at-home mom. And one of the sisters is really, really depressed. I believe she tries to unalive herself. The story is about that, which again, like I said, love those themes in books. One of my favorite things to read about, honestly, as odd as that sounds. I like hearing what other people have to say about such a heavy subject. So this is my birthday book haul for this year. A very exciting, fun group of books. I'm really pumped to add this to my collection, or to add all of these to my collection. I do want to start one of these today. I'm not sure which one. For some reason, I'm leaning towards one of these 3. So either Zama by Antonio Di Benedetto, or Sun City by Tove Jansson, or Excellent Woman by Barbara Pym. Those 3 really high on my radar for today specifically. So yeah, please let me know if you've read any of these books, what you think of them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.